Dr. Jung put forward a new concept that he called synchronicity. This term means a meaningful coincidence of outer and inner events that are not themselves causally connected. The emphasis lies on the word meaningful. If an aircraft crashes before my eyes as I am blowing my nose, this is a coincidence of events that has no meaning. It is simply a chance occurrence of a kind that happens all the time. But if I bought a blue frock and by mistake the shop delivered a black one on the day one of my near relatives died, this would be a meaningful coincidence. The two events are not causally related, but they are connected by the symbolic meaning that our society gives to the color black. Wherever Dr. Jung observed such coincidences in an individual's life, it seemed, as the individual's dreams revealed, that there was an archetype activated in the unconscious of the individual concerned. To illustrate this by my example of the black frock, in such a case, the person who receives the black frock might also have had a dream on the theme of death. It seems as if the underlying archetype is manifesting itself simultaneously in inner and external events. The common denominator is a symbolically expressed message, in this case, a message about death. As soon as we notice that certain types of event like to cluster together at certain times, we begin to understand the attitude of the Chinese, whose theories of medicine, philosophy, and even building are based on a science of meaningful coincidences. The classical Chinese texts did not ask what causes what, but rather what likes to occur with what. One can see much the same underlying theme in astrology and in the way various civilizations have depended on consulting oracles and paying attention to omens. All of these are attempts to provide an explanation of coincidence that is different from one that depends on straightforward cause and effect. In creating the concept of synchronicity, Dr. Jung sketched a way in which we might penetrate deeper into the interrelation of psyche and matter. And it is precisely toward such a relation that the symbol of the stone seems to point. But this is still a completely open and insufficiently explored matter with which future generations of psychologists and physicists must deal. Synchronistic events almost invariably accompany the crucial phases of the process of individuation. But too often they pass unnoticed because the individual has not learned to watch for such coincidences and to make them meaningful in relation to the symbolism of his dreams.
Well, synchronicity is really physical reality's space-time way of showing us that everything is actually one thing, everything is actually connected. It has to still do it in a space-time framework, even though everything exists all at once. But synchronicity is what you start experiencing when you go in the flow of your life, when you stop resisting your natural self, when you stop fighting and going against the grain. You start experiencing the idea that everything is connected. And everything starts happening without the planning. It's again similar to what I described on Bashar's world, where you just wind up being exactly where you need to be, when you need to be there, finding out exactly what you need, when you need to find that information out. Your life really starts becoming an ecstatic explosion of synchronicity. And, crazy things start happening, magical things start happening. I have one example recently of, in the film business, wanting to work with a particular person, a particular actor. And, I thought, okay, it'd be interesting to contact this person and see, what maybe can be done. And, then I didn't think any more about it. But the next day we went to lunch with a friend at a restaurant that I almost never go to. And I walk in the door and the first person I run into is this person. And so I strike up a conversation. But it's like, out of a city of, 7 million people, I run into the very person I was thinking of running into the next day. So those kinds of things just start happening, almost as if suddenly I live in a town of like 10 people and you're going to run into everyone you need to run into when you need to run into them. You're going to make the connections you need to make. You have to stay in that state of your true self in order to experience more of that. But synchronicity is one of the natural symptoms or the natural results of the expansion of consciousness, because you start realizing everything's connected and you start experiencing it that way.
While in Austin, Texas, for my son's graduation from college, we had dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. There were 6 of us, and we sat outside. A week later, I'm now home back in Southern California, and I'm out to dinner for a friend's birthday. There are 10 women, and to the right of me is a friend of my friend who I've never met before. I knew most of the other ladies. And when she sat down, and I heard she had just moved to Austin back in October, so when I had a chance to talk to her, I told her I was just in Austin and how my son has lived there for college and how much I love it there. We were talking about some favorite places we like and sharing mine with her. I asked her if she'd been to Perla's, my favorite restaurant. She said, yes, she loves it. I said, I got to go there for Mother's Day. She said, I was there for Mother's Day. Funny, I said. Did you sit inside or out? She said, out. Same with us, I said. She then pulls out her phone, and she has a picture of her daughter took of her, and I am in the picture sitting right behind her. No one else from my family, just me. I asked her, how did she know to look at this picture? And she said, I don't know, I just knew to look. We'd never met until this night. Did our inner beings know we would be seeing each other next week? So is this a sign from the universe showing me that this is all true, giving me fun signs? It's exactly that, isn't it? It's exactly that.
Also, what can happen is synchronistic events suddenly happen. So suddenly helpful things that suddenly appear in the form of people or situations. Not that, as I just earlier mentioned, obstacles. Anybody who creates something new will encounter obstacles. But as the energy builds up, you will encounter also the opposite of obstacles, and that encounter that more frequently after a while than the obstacles. And that is helpful circumstances suddenly appearing seemingly out of nowhere. So these are often in the form of synchronistic events. Just at the right moment, the right thing is there.